Welcome to Soul Rising. We're your hosts, Amy and Erin. We're two everyday mediums who are passionate about taking the woo-woo out of spirituality and bringing it down to earth. So put the kettle on, grab a chair, and join us. Welcome back, everyone.
Hello, not really another, I was gonna say another day, another episode. It's not another day, although Amy and I have put on different colored sweaters, so it looks like maybe it's been another day, except now we've ruined it by telling you.
Put it in pony, put a little lip gloss on, but yes, it's still the same day.
Still the same day.
We're talking about nails. Erin's got these beautiful purple nails.
Yes, Ellie did my nails. Shout out. I love them.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And mine are just like little.
But we've got nice like kind of spring summer colors, springy colors, you know.
Lime green. My daughter was like, "Ew, mom," and I was like, "You know what? I don't care." She thinks she'll be like, "You're too old. You're too old." I'm gonna be a grandma that embarrasses you.
Yeah, I can't wait for the day.
I don't care. I'm gonna love it.
Yeah.
I feel like I know I'm a generation kind of like above you because I'm 10 years older, but like I feel like our generation, my generation, like I'm a Zennial and then millennials. I feel like we're rewriting the story on aging.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we're going to be like our grandmothers were.
No.
I feel like it's going to be totally different.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to cut our hair short.
No.
We don't have to wear trousers.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
We're going to be tatted old ladies.
Yep. I definitely am going to be a tatted old lady. I
know. I'm thinking up a bunch of tattoos. My husband would like never get a tattoo ever in a million years. He's like, I can't imagine anything I would want on my body forever.
Oh, I've imagined a few. They're on me now.
Like I haven't got a new tattoo in like probably like 14 years, but I have 4 that I got 3 within a 1-year period, and when my like about age 20, and then I got one when I was like about 29 or so. But I have plenty that I'm imagining, and he's like, don't you regret those? And I was like, no, like they're not necessarily things that I would get now, but they told the story of who I was then.
That's why and there's something really like nice about having that art. I don't know,
I think so.
Art, like I like all
for this lifetime. Like, why not? Like, you decorate your house.
Yeah.
Just decorating for somebody who doesn't like tattoos. You do you. That's our thing. You do you.
You do you.
But I mean,
it's so funny we're having this conversation. I literally thought about booking an appointment to get just like a touch up because this girl that did my tattoos hasn't lived here in years, and now she's back.
Oh, it's a sign.
and I actually there's a really good story about one of my tattoos on my thigh. I have this like girl, she's got just like a feather boa on her, and there's a tiger and a flower. This is like the image, and I got that tattoo because I gave her a reading. So in exchange for a reading, she gave me a tattoo.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm like, I always remember that. Yeah. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Anyways.
So what do you want to talk about today?
Oh, let's talk about how therapy is amazing. And I highly recommend, if you're just thinking about it, go do it. It's not easy. There's a lot of vulnerability there. Opening yourself up, and doing a lot of like inner work, kind of, going within and doing that self-reflection, which is not always easy. So if you're doing that, but you're not seeing a therapist, but you are self-reflective, I commend you. So I don't think it's easy. So good for you. And for me, it's nice to have somebody who has an outsider's perspective to validate my feelings and like help me work through those feelings. It's like a sounding board. with somebody who's, this is what they do for a living. So I like that. And I did therapy a few years ago. I haven't been to see a therapist in a while, only because I felt not super connected with my previous therapist, which is not uncommon. Like, it happens.
Yeah.
So I discovered a new therapist, and I really like her. She's just so nice and sweet. We also have similar like there's some commonalities. She told me she because I let her know I work with kids on the spectrum. So she's just been like sharing like, oh, I saw this documentary, you might like it. Like, it talks about this. And she gives me also like good book recommendations, which I like. So anyways, she's really nice. And I had this big aha moment in therapy that I think will be really cool to talk about on the podcast. And I immediately after, like literally after, I voice memoed Amy on Instagram, and I was like, Amy.
Yeah.
I was like, something really cool just happened. All of these things are just kind of connecting, which I always knew. It wasn't anything new, but it's just interesting to me how everything kind of unfolded and centered around my grandfather's passing on my mom's side. So the original conversation was just like me talking about my confidence, being confident in myself.
Yeah.
Where does that lack of confidence kind of come from, or where do we think like it kind of started? And then some of it, not all of it, but like goes back to the time when I got diagnosed with a learning disability, when I saw a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And things kind of coming from that. Because that had happened a year after my grandfather passed away, maybe 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. And so like the trauma kind of linked around his passing, and how it's kind of like trickled and like created some of these feelings that I just couldn't label back then, but now I can kind of label, and I can see where how I think now, where that comes from.
Yeah.
And I did have I was talking to my my therapist about it, because she was like, well, what does your learning disability, what does that look like to you? And I can't even really put it into words, other than when I was looking at the sheet, like, because my parents shared it with me recently. It says, needs more time on tests, struggles with math. And then it said, this is funny, but not funny, but it said fear of death.
That came up at school?
That came up in school. Well, that came up in my psych eval when I was getting like this diagnosis with a learning disability.
Okay.
And my therapist was like, it's interesting, like, it's kind of like, how would that, if you were to get assessed now, what would that look like? Because she's like, I guarantee you it's so much different. You know, do you even, would somebody now say you have a learning disability? Who knows? What you're telling me is like very, general.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people need more time on tests or get anxiety around things like that.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon.
Yeah.
And then I was telling her like things that happened to me in like high school, where I had a guidance counselor tell me, don't apply for university, you won't get in. Can you imagine?
No.
A guidance counselor.
Not doing your job.
Yeah.
Correctly. Yeah.
There was one new guidance counselor that came in that basically advocated for me and worked with me. So like, thanks to her, I was like, nope, I'm doing it. I took some summer school courses to get my grades up, and I got in.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but a lot of this goes back to around my grandfather's passing. And when all of this was happening, getting that psych eval,
Mhm.
um, kind of going through my own grief,
Yeah.
but also probably going through the grief that my parents were going through,
Mhm.
right? Seeing that, trying to process that myself as a child. All of that kind of getting diagnosed with this learning disability. When all this stuff was happening, was at the same time all this spirit stuff was happening to me that I couldn't
Wow.
explain.
Mhm.
And I told my therapist that. So I ended up telling her I'm an intuitive medium, psychic medium.
Mhm.
You know, she was like, "Oh, okay, like not what I was expecting you to say."
Mhm.
But that's awesome, um so I was like, it's just really interesting that all that trauma, while there's things now that it still impacts me, and then I'm like kind of working through and trying to process. It also it was traumatic, but it also created this beautiful thing where I can I credit that experience to being able to connect to spirit.
Mhm.
So it's like this, um I don't know what the right word for it would be, but um it's just this very opposite, like contradicting thing of like there's trauma, but there's also something that came from this like ability to connect to something that I couldn't explain.
Yeah.
The other thing that was interesting to me, Amy, is I used to like I would read a lot about people going through similar situations, and they say some what because what I was experiencing was like poltergeisty things. I was seeing things move.
Yes.
They say that sometimes it's that poltergeist activity happens around young teenagers
Yes.
that
Yes.
are going through a traumatic experience.
Yeah. And what do you think that's about?
I don't know.
Because I've heard that like that before, and like that maybe
Right?
a teenager because it's hormone.
Hormonal.
Yeah, it's
Because
interesting.
who knows what they're going through?
It's
Could,
such a
it's obviously very different.
transitional like time in life. Like
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's very interesting.
And we talk about like death is a transition.
That's right.
And so it's a very transitional time, but also like I'm connecting with that in between space. I don't know. Yeah. It just was very eye opening to me.
Mhm.
And it's like, I can't totally put it into the right words.
Yeah.
My friend, I was telling her about it last night, and she goes, "Well, does it matter what it means? Like, does the why matter?" I was like, no.
Hmm.
Because, here I am, I get to do this amazing work.
Hmm.
But I just thought it was just like
Interesting.
interesting, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I was bringing it up. I don't know where we want to go from there. Maybe our listeners have similar experiences to things that have come up for them. Um, but I thought it was uh, just this like really big aha moment that I've always known, and we've talked about it before.
Hmm.
How that, even I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the passing of your father,
Hmm.
that things kind of snowballing from there.
From that. Yeah. And I have never met a working medium
Yeah,
that hasn't had, I mean, it's not all born from trauma
trauma.
and
Yeah,
loss,
yeah,
but there's definitely stuff that has happened,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I honestly, like, I feel like this is an important conversation. Number one, because I feel like we really need to destigmatize going to therapy, needing therapy, all of that kind of stuff. I think anybody living could benefit from therapy. Like,
Yes.
let's face it, like life is hard,
Yeah, you
right?
don't have to wait for things to get really bad before
You don't have
going.
to be in a crisis.
You don't have to be in a
Yeah.
crisis.
Yeah.
I'm not in crisis. I'm actually very lucky that I'm able to go. I know
Yeah.
there's people that aren't and maybe would like to. So I also recognize that.
Hmm.
There are really good resources that are free. Or there are therapists that will take clients on a lower pay rate. Like
Mm-hmm.
you could go to a therapy
Yeah.
session for a sliding scale fee.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I would say if you can, I always say too, if you think you could benefit from it, go to therapy if you're already thinking about it.
Yeah. 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 I think it's getting better, but I do still think there's some stigma involved
Oh, absolutely.
for people. And it's
Yeah.
just kind of like admitting that you think you need help
Mm-hmm.
with something. I think most of us would wait till we're in a crisis of some sort, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's so beneficial, even if it's just to, because I don't know about you, but I am the type of person that in order to process things, in order to get the aha moments, I have to first of all voice it.
Yes.
I have to talk,
Yeah.
or it doesn't process the same way, or it might take a long time to get to the same aha.
Yeah.
Versus, it's like an accelerated kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like even I was talking to my therapist about like, oh, I got to start journaling. I feel like I
Mhm.
need to like put these thoughts somewhere. And she was like, yeah, because you're giving it a voice.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
helpful, even if
There's
you're just
power
writing
in
it
that.
down. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's like that's shift between, like, when you get to that point
Mm-hmm.
of, like, versus having that thing underneath the surface kind of control you in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all of that stuff that you had maybe you wouldn't have processed. And
Yeah.
so it just festered under the surface as like maybe a lack of confidence or a sense of like, I'm not worthy of things.
Yes.
And whether or not you're consciously thinking that every day, it plays out in your life
Yeah.
big time, right?
Yeah.
And it's affecting your life in a negative way if you think
Mm-hmm.
about it. Because I think a lot of people, we will kind of judge our own stuff. Like, I can't tell you how often I hear from people that are like, well, I mean, what do you mean inner child healing? Like, my parents were fine, you know, I wasn't abused. Like, what the heck do I have to complain about?
Mm-hmm.
But everybody experiences trauma, even if it's like little, like Gabby Bernstein in her book, Happy Days, she
Mm-hmm.
talks about how that's her most recent book, but she had like multiple books out for the last decade. Like, she was quite well known. I think she's called a new thought leader.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and was really respected in her field and all this stuff. And then she had a moment, I can't remember what exactly happened, but something happened. She lost a baby. That's right, she lost a baby
Mm.
in pregnancy, and she was moving
Yeah.
through the grief of that, and then processed this like kind of memory from the past that she had totally
Kind
buried.
of buried.
And
Yeah.
it came to the surface, and then she had to, like, basically she's like, I had to reprocess and heal all over again, and now
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the space that I wasn't before. And it kind of shows the evolution of the growth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also, she talks in that book about big T trauma and little T trauma, and
Mm-hmm.
that we think and we give credit to big T trauma, like somebody was killed,
Yeah.
somebody died,
Or
my parents
witnessing
divorced,
something
my
very.
parents
Yeah.
have an addiction,
Yeah.
blah blah blah, like various traumatic events that we would all blanket statement agree, yes,
Trauma.
that was
Yeah.
traumatic,
Yeah.
and yes, that gives me an excuse to feel this way.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
not the nicest way to say it, but you know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Versus little T trauma, like, well, I was alienated at school, I was bullied, I was blah blah blah, like
A
all these
grandparent
different
passing.
things, right? My grandfather passed.
Yeah.
There's a sense of course, like eventually my grandfather's gonna pass because he's older than me. He's 2 generations older. Everybody's grandfather passes. Like, why would that be so traumatic to me? And then we like we sell we what's the word? We trying to think of the word.
Devalue it. Like we don't.
Yeah, we don't give it a voice. We don't think of it as trauma, and therefore we just kind of, what the word is at the tip of my tongue. I hope it comes in.
Yeah.
Um, gaslight.
Gaslight.
We
Okay. Yeah.
gaslight ourselves
Mm-hmm.
into thinking, what do I have to complain about? Like, I just
Yeah.
recently had this conversation with a friend
Yeah.
who had something happen recently that felt out of her control. And
Mm-hmm.
now she's like, all these things are kind of resurfacing about like childhood and things growing up and things that like I thought was just normal, but like, I don't think they were normal, Amy. And I was like, and I just
Yeah,
I
just
just
listen. Yeah.
allowed the person to speak and to voice it all, and aha moments were happening by giving it a voice. So I
Yeah.
think it's important. I'm glad you're giving it a voice today. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope it also just like encourages other folks who might be thinking about it um, to go and get some counsel or just give it a voice. Give yourself that power back because
Because
there
then
is power in that,
because you can
reclaiming things.
shift. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the shift that I was kind of talking about earlier. Like you can allow that thing to be your inner dialogue. I'm not worthy. Somebody at some point said that I wasn't capable of doing anything.
Yes.
Um, you can allow that to happen, or you can, when it comes to a traumatic thing like you losing your grandfather, me losing my dad, grieving is certainly like we need to grieve. We need to process that passing, but we could have stayed stuck in that grief
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
without taking this piece out of it. So
Yeah.
their passing gave us the gift of
Yeah.
recognizing our sensitivities
Yeah.
to
And
the spirit
also
world
feeling that love
and the connection.
and that connection. And
Yeah.
that is a gift in itself.
Yes. It's an interesting thing, like I'm careful about it when I speak about it. But I do feel like my father's passing, like I'll say it was the catalyst for me.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly intuitively feel like at some soul level, like if you believe in soul contracts and all that kind of stuff, I do believe that this was agreed upon, that, hey, these are the experiences you'll have. This is the relationship we'll have.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's my time, because that's what he said to me, when I connected to him in spirit, when he was still on life support. We all know this story. I've shared it so
Yeah.
many times. But he said, I don't want to go, but I have to go. Like it
Yeah.
is truth that when it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah.
And so I feel like through that like he let me know that like regardless, this was his time. And so it feels like it was something that was always kind of agreed upon. And maybe it was agreed upon that that thing would then help me step into this.
Yes.
I don't know. But that's how I've taken it, and I've empowered myself. I still
Yeah.
grieve. I still miss my dad. I wish things were different, but I also know that that has allowed me to do this. And
Yeah.
maybe I wouldn't have got to this point if that didn't happen. Maybe it would have taken me another 20 years. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think if we can take any little nugget of something
Yeah.
that we can use moving forward from like all shitty and traumatic experiences.
Yes. If it's helping you to
Yeah.
heal and to understand or to, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Then what's so wrong with it?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
for kind of, for if that for you is what works for you in terms of like healing or regardless, right? Like is there anything really wrong with you believing that? It's the same thing when people come to see us for readings. Regardless of what other people may I mean, there's the hand to God. This is something greater than us, like that we're connecting with. Or spirit, hand to, the creator.
Absolutely.
I firmly believe that.
100%. It's very humbling work.
It is.
Yes.
Right? And regardless of if other people are like, this is bullshit, but okay. But also, that's for you.
Yeah.
If this works for other people, how can you judge that as, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
I
hope it
think
does to our
all
listeners.
things, if it's like some people would I kind of feel that way about religion too. Like I've totally changed my tune on religion
Yeah.
when I started
Yeah.
doing this work, because before I did this work, I was never really raised with religion.
Yeah.
It was something that pulled me towards it. I know this is a big topic, right? It's like, oh, we're talking about all these issues that people might not want to talk about. But I was always drawn to something about it. But at the same time, I was like, but I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't like this. And so I don't agree with this. And, there's people that would say, okay, but like if that belief in God and Jesus and the angels and all those things help you live a life that you're proud of, then like, who cares? Like, just then
if you're not
believe it.
harming anybody.
That's the thing. It's the harming piece. I think if you're if
Yeah.
you believe in something and there's no harm being done to yourself or someone else, and it's like, then who cares? Like, you can believe in whatever the heck you want if it makes you feel empowered and good, and you know,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I totally agree.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
things about, religion that there's really messy parts to it.
There is, but life is messy.
Colonized.
There's, I
This,
think, like,
oh, here
there's
you go,
parts, yeah, there's parts of religion that, like, I feel like there's aspects of it that
awful.
have become toxic in the sense that the egos got involved in it.
Yes. People
So it's,
take it and they see that
yes,
and it's like manipulated into
yes.
something that
It's
is
manipulated into an
you're
aspect of
abusing
like
it. Yeah.
separation and control versus what it actually is, right?
Yeah.
And that's the part that I don't like, and that's the part that I feel like I was kind of about before.
Yeah.
But the, like, collectiveness, the love, the community, the
Yeah.
something greater than I am, the belief in, something
Yeah.
greater than I am, and a connection to all things is the beauty in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I know. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing today.
Yeah. I mean, thank you everyone. Thank you to our listeners.
Thanks for
Um
listening.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for being a soundboard, Amy,
of
and
course.
for
I think we
sharing
all need
also.
a soundboard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
um I'm still working through it. It's something that I like. Even I think I had a session earlier this week, and she was like, so what came up from that? I'm like, well, I'm still working through that. I'm still trying to
Yeah.
vocalize it and figure out how to word it.
Yeah.
A lot of things make a lot more sense for me,
Yeah.
which feels good to know and understand that.
Yeah.
And little me is very happy right now because it feels like, oh, you see me.
Yeah. Yeah. Been talking a lot about inner child healing lately. Actually, it actually came up.
It's
I did
come up.
2 sessions last night. And in one of them, inner child healing came up, and I had mentioned that's a new offering of mine. That's something that I've been doing for the last couple of months, and it's been kind of amazing, like what's come
Yeah.
through. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. I've said that I'm going to put up a picture of myself on my desk, and I from childhood, and I haven't yet, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna. This
We
is
should
this is for
all.
you. This is for you. Yeah, we all have stuff from childhood, whether it's like from the family, whether it is,
Hmm.
society, the
Yeah.
other kids, like whatever it is. There's a
Yeah.
part of us that needs that love and acceptance and support, and
Yes.
yeah,
It doesn't mean you had a bad childhood.
no,
Nobody's perfect, right? You find out, I don't know when I was, you find out, fairly early on, oh, my parents aren't perfect. They've got stuff too.
yeah,
Right? Um, I don't know where I was going with that, but
none of us know what we're doing.
we don't really know what we're doing. We're all just in this great big boat of life together.
It's just experience, it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, yeah. I feel like we all know, like, inner child, I feel like inner child healing is important. Therapy is important. Um, I feel like therapy, in like, whether or not there's a focus on inner child healing or not, I feel like it gets there eventually. There's some
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and
connection
that's what I feel like that's is that what psychotherapy does? They really, you go way,
gets to
way
the root.
back. It gets
Yeah,
to
you
the
got to
root of
get
it.
to the root. But yeah, you know, for me, with my experiences with therapy and with my experiences with the spirit world, it's helped me heal a lot of inner child stuff. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still there and it's still a work in progress, but like, I think it's about when you experience something greater than yourself, and you kind of see that life is just one big kind of experience. It's neither good or bad. It's just
Yeah.
experience.
It's
And that
experience.
everybody before, if there's like ancestral trauma or family trauma or like things that have happened in the family, I honestly do believe that everybody does the best they can with what they have
Hmm.
at the moment. And I would not have agreed with that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I would have been like, nope, this person, that person harmed me and did this and this and this, and they should be punished
Hold a
for
lot
it,
of
and all this
resentment.
kind of
Yeah.
stuff, right? And it's helped me like forgive and
Yes.
let go. Because, yeah, there's people that do really, really crappy things and really horrible things. And I'm not saying that's
Yes.
okay.
No, I don't think that's what forgiveness is.
No, it's for you.
It's for you.
For
Exactly.
you.
It doesn't mean what you did is okay, right? It's for you to let it go and let it, yeah.
There's like a quote or something that I
Is it
read
Maya
before.
Angelou? I always think of Maya Angelou
No,
when
but
I
there's
think of
something I read
forgiveness.
before that says something like the experiences of the past will not, it was like an affirmation. The experiences of my past will not govern my future.
Mm-hmm.
It was something like that.
Something
And
like
I
that.
think
Yeah.
about that all the time.
Yeah. That's a really good quote.
I think it's actually
I'm
from
not
Paul
defined
Frank.
by my past. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And that's what cycle breaking is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think therapy is about cycle breaking, whether it's like a cycle in your family or just
Mm-hmm.
society. It's right now we're experiencing just like all of it.
Yes.
All of the above is happening. There's
Yeah.
a breakdown in all of the unhealthy, nasty
Yes.
stuff that's been happening for eons is now
Mm-hmm.
coming to surface, and we're in the thick of it. We really are.
Yeah. And things sometimes they got to get worse before they get better.
Yeah.
And that's things kind of crumple down, but then they rebuild.
Yeah, because
We
we're
can
just
rebuild.
seeing the darkness that was always there. It was just under the surface, and now all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's here.
We took that band-aid off, guys.
Yeah.
Now we're letting the
But
wound
that's the
bleed.
empowered piece.
Yes.
Because if you can go, okay, but like all that stuff was always there. Yeah, we see it now, but that means it's visible. And that
Mm-hmm.
visibility is a gift because now
Mm-hmm.
it's
You're
not it.
acknowledging it.
Yeah, we're giving it a
That's
voice.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll leave you
We'll
this
leave
week
you at
with
that.
that. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing your
Wow.
experience so much, Erin. I really, really appreciate it. I'm sure our viewers do too. And we will see you again in 2 weeks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and tune in each week as we dish on all things spiritual.
Don't forget to like, comment on what you would like to hear us talk about next, and subscribe.